So, hello everyone, and welcome back to STW Sports. I'm host Samuel Wright, joined by Ipswich Town fan Richard Chandler. And Richard, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you on and to meet you. Firstly, I'm just going to ask about Ipswich's current situation. Currently ninth in League One, but has been a much better second half of the season under McKenna. What have you made of the season overall? I guess you can say a season or two halves, but also what have you made of the impacts made by McKenna?
I think it's twofold, to be honest, because I was a fan of Cook. I still am a fan of Cook. I just think it was a little bit of a scenario where he wasn't necessarily, much as they said he wasn't game changer and Mark Ashton's man. Doesn't fit into the same sort of managers as he's had before. McKenna definitely is that kind of manager. When you look at Ashton's history, bringing in people like Rodgers at Bristol and giving people their first managerial chances in the game, I'm delighted. This is the first season in years where I'm excited watching us play. In the past 8, 9, 10, probably longer than that years, it's been pretty turgid stuff, to be totally honest, but it isn't now. And it's, even though we've had some draws, we've played good football, and even like tight 1-0 wins have been entertaining. Tight, not 1-0 wins. It's a joy to watch, to be honest.
Yeah, do you feel like McKenna's kind of gone in with a bit of the free hit? Obviously, he took over mid-season, really. You were kind of languishing in mid-table at that point. No one really gave you a chance of reaching the playoffs. I mean, you're only around about 5 points off the playoffs now. So do you feel like it's got a bit of a free hit this season, McKenna, where if you do reach the playoffs, it's a bonus, but if you don't, then it's all building towards next season?
I think he definitely has had a free hit. I think I've said for a long time that I still think that we might sneak in at the last bit. And I think of the teams in the playoff, there's been a couple of managers on record already said that they don't want to face us in the playoffs. If we're to get in, we're going to have to probably win all 6. But I do think that he was brought in with next season in mind, and that they wanted him to get the squad playing the way he wants them to play, have an idea of what players he wants to bring in and what players he wants to get rid of. And he's done that already. In January, he got some players out on loan. There was a couple of others sold, and not much incoming after such a big, heavy summer of transfers. I think he's doing a great job. And I think even if we don't do it next season, I'm excited for already. Whereas if you'd have said that to me at the beginning of the season, you're going to be excited that 6 games from the end of the season, you may not make it into the playoffs at least, I'd have probably got on another year in League One. But I just don't feel like that at the moment.
Yeah, it's going to speak to you about League One as well, Richard. Obviously, spent 17 seasons in the Championship Ipswich after the relegation from the Premier League in 2002. Going down to League One was difficult. Obviously, you've had 2 pandemic-affected seasons where the first one was obviously curtailed and you were under Paul Lambert and you were just a bit outside the playoffs. And last season, behind closed doors, missing definitely the Portman Road atmosphere, and then things kind of tailed off towards the end. What's been your overall thoughts in League One, though? Because I personally think it's a division that has got a lot stronger in the last few years with the quality of teams there. Do you feel like it's getting harder and harder to get out of the division?
I think it is, and I think that's only going to continue, to be honest, because I think you look at this season, you'd probably say Rotherham and Wigan are likely to be the 2 that go up automatically, but only one of the next 5 or 6 can, and there's some teams playing some decent football in amongst them, along with Ipswich. And then you've got Derby, who'll come down presumably with a new owner. Forest Green will probably come up with some impetus of cash injection to try and make them be able to be a strength. I think it's a really strong division. I think there's a couple of teams that are in it that are going to still be in it next season that, in my opinion, don't play football the right way. But that's only a couple out of 24 teams, and that's the same in every division, actually. I think there's an awful lot of gamesmanship goes on in some games that they get away with because of League One officiating being so poor, because I think that's where the standard is bad, is in the officiating in general.
Yeah, no, I agree. Of course, I do work myself in EFL football, and I can definitely agree. People do complain about VAR, but until you've seen the officiating in the EFL, then you can't take it for granted a little bit, I guess, VAR at times. But just want to ask as well about, the Paul Cook era. Obviously, I know going back to the past a little bit here. You said you were a fan of him. What do you think? Why do you think it didn't work out though, really, for Cook at the start of the season, and obviously end of last season? What do you think was the main issue? And also going even further back, Paul Lambert.
With Paul Kirk, I personally think he did completely the right thing when he came in. There was an awful lot of players that were getting paid decent money for League One football and weren't performing and hadn't been performing for several years. And I'm not alone, but I know there's an awful lot of fans that go, oh, Chambers was brilliant, Chambers was this, Chambers was that. Maybe for about the first 3 or 4 years that he joined the club, but not the last 5 or 6, in my opinion. And I think that was part of the problem, is that Cook came in, saw a few things, straight away said, I need to change everything. I think those players hung up their boots on him. So we then didn't make the playoffs last season. And then I don't think any manager would have done any differently with 19 new signings in the summer. I think the first 8 or 9 games were always going to be tough. And actually, when you look at the table now, if you took off those 8 or 9 games, just took them out of the equation, Ipswich would be in the playoff positions. If you take off the first 7 or 8 games for every club, Ipswich would be in the playoffs already. And that's what killed our season. And then towards the end, I think we just needed to be more solid defensively. And we were capable of tearing teams apart, but equally capable of getting ripped apart the other end. And it was just entertaining to watch, but you couldn't. Whereas straight away, McKenna came in, went to 3 at the back. We suddenly don't let in goals and we're still creating chances. So I think it was his lack of agility around changing the squad and the formation per team per game that probably cost him. And with Lambert, probably best that I don't say what my thoughts on Lambert are as a manager. I genuinely think that he's probably still riding on the fact that he's played in the Champions League as a player. And I don't think he offers anything to any football club as a manager in this day and age.
Yeah, no, of course, Lambert's last few jobs kind of proved that as well, really. I mean, it's kind of been a managerial downfall for quite a few years now, and especially in League One with Ipswich as well, where he didn't really make much of an impact with a good team. Going to throw a few memory questions in here now for you, Richard. Firstly, as you mentioned before we went on air about you weren't quite really old enough for the European triumph in 1982. Obviously, a big moment for the club, but I'm going to speak about the playoff win in the year 2000 against Barnsley, a very entertaining game, that one as well. It was a 4-2 victory, I believe. What are your memories of that?
One of my greatest days as an Ipswich fan. Going to the old Wembley, because it was the last ever club game at the old Wembley in 2000. Walking up Wembley Way out of the tube station to see just blue and red, because there was an awful lot of fans there. It was sold out, obviously. And just the atmosphere between the fans the whole day was amazing. At the time, I was still living in the Midlands, so I actually got the train home after the game and was on a train that had full of Barnsley fans, because it was going up to Leicester and then going further up to go to Yorkshire. And they were all just so friendly and so complimentary, and it just kind of rounded the day up. I was nervous because it was the biggest game I'd seen us play at that time. As a fan, and I can remember thinking, oh no, not again, because we let a goal in after 5 minutes to Hignett, and then that was the only point in the game that we looked like we were in any kind of trouble for the whole of the rest of the match, and it was a fairly comfortable 4-2 win in the end, which after years of us failing to make it through the playoffs, because we'd had 6 out of 7 years in the playoffs under Burley before that, it was just amazing to finally be there.
Yeah.
So no, brilliant.
Definitely agree. A big moment. I'm going to touch on the 2011 League Cup run now. Ended, of course, against Arsenal. Very good cup run that over 10-11 season. Obviously, a 1-0 win against Arsenal as well at Portman Road. A very big moment. Obviously, it did end in defeat at the Emirates to them by 3-0. But that must have been great. Though a great day at Portman Road as well. A great evening because obviously Ipswich got relegated in 2002 from the Premier League, and that was one of the first games really where they must have felt a sort of Premier League-like atmosphere, welcoming one of the giants, Arsenal, and getting a win against them as well.
Yeah, a great night. I just think there's a few times over the many years I've watched Ipswich where you can remember everything about the game, or you can remember everything about the atmosphere. That one's one of them. Everyone that went to the playoff semi-final against Bolton, where we got to Wembley, says they can remember that one, and it will always stick with them. There's been some big games over the years at Portman Road, but that's one of the more recent ones, and it's quite sad to say that that's like 11 years ago, and that's one of the more recent really big games there. Because whenever we've played any bigger clubs since, we've just not really performed. The last time being Southampton in an FA Cup game that was on TV, and it wasn't a great game, and and then we play Barrow in the FA Cup this year and play appallingly badly just before McKenna gets taken over, and everyone on BBC gets to see how badly we play. So those nights are special. And then even last Saturday was a really special day because the Plymouth game being the Mariner day, because of memories of Paul Mariner and them doing stuff and us doing stuff for the day. Just the whole atmosphere at the game. For anyone that doesn't know how big Ipswich can be, we're averaging over 20,000 in League One. We'll average 23, 24 probably next season. Get up into the Championship with our current ownership and our current management, which I'm certain we will, if not this season, next season. We'll probably average 26, 27 in the Championship. So, which I think is huge when you look at what other clubs in the Premier League and the Championship are averaging.
Yeah, just going to ask as well about the 2000-2001 season now for Ipswich, obviously 5th place finish in the Premier League. Just after getting promoted, I don't think any Ipswich fan would have envisioned that. I mean, 5th place finish, obviously a crazy season, really got into Europe as well, obviously, afterwards. Didn't go too well the following season. But what were your thoughts on that 2000-2001 campaign? And what do you think the keys were to Ipswich finishing so high in the table?
I think the key was that he managed to keep most of the core of the squad that had got us up and only added a couple of players, because I think part of the failure was a couple of players moved and things like that, and some other players got brought in the next season. But also the fact that there was no reliance on just going and trying to shut up shop. He didn't change the way we played football. We still went out and tried to play passing, attacking football. Whereas a lot of teams will get promoted to the Premier League and go away to Arsenal, Liverpool, Man U, shut up shop and hope they can get a draw, or hope they could sneak back then, especially when you had Man United being so dominant in the Premier League era then. Teams wouldn't go and just attack them. But I think the fans' belief really started that they could do something special the very first home game being Man United, because they managed to get a draw at home to Man United in their first game in the Premier League. In their second game in the Premier League, their first home game. I just think that showed everyone what they were capable of. And then having a striker who at the time had his best season ever in the Premier League in Marcus Stewart just helped, because you obviously need a 20-goal a season striker in the Premier League. It's proven. Yeah, so I think that was the key thing. I think him as well was part of the key thing, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And next up, I'm going to speak to you about, go back to the present now, actually, and just speak about, of course, your favourite, well, actually, another past question about your favourite player manager, then we'll go back to the present. So if you have a favourite ever Ipswich Town player and manager, Richard, who would they be?
Manager has to be Robson, just much as obviously I'm bordering on the era of never really experienced him as a club manager. But you look at what he did with Ipswich in the period of time that he was there, but then you look at his career afterwards and you look at how he was as a person and everything he achieved. I think he's head and shoulders the best manager that England have ever had. I know Ramsey won the World Cup, but I think Robson, with what he achieved in the game as a whole, is head and shoulders above anyone else. As a manager, that's definitely my favourite manager. As a player, I think it's difficult. There's so many good ones over the years. From the original era, probably John Walk or Terry Butcher. Both of them for the style of players they were, but also what they could achieve with their talents. In the more modern era, Matt Holland, just for being able to play so many games at such a high level, consistently performing week in, week out, which he did for years for us. And then what was the last question about the current era as well, was that?
Yeah, I was going to ask as well about your current player of the season from this season.
I think our player of the season this season is Wes Burns. I think in recent weeks it's probably Sam Morsey, but I think consistently over the entire season it's Wes Burns, because effectively a right wing back now, a right midfielder under Cook, but really he's more like a right winger for us because he's so attack minded and has got 7 or 8 assists, I think it is now, and 10 or 11 goals now, which for a wing back is pretty special. But it's not just that, it's everything else that he brings to the team. But I think it's probably going to be quite hard for anyone to be better than Sam Morsey in the last 6 games of the season, because I just think how we've got a few of the players we've got playing League One football for us is beyond me. But how we've got him playing League One football is I just don't get it. I don't get why he came down a division.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. And just going to speak about the game you've got coming up at the weekend, Cambridge United. Cambridge obviously view this as a very big game, of course. I mean, they said at the start of the season, Ipswich is the game they're looking forward to. It's at Ipswich, of course, and Cambridge, their season's kind of mid-table, not in too much relegation trouble. So maybe a team with not much to play for, but I mean, they'll be out to prove, it's a big day for them, especially travelling to Portman Road. They'll be out to prove a point. What are your thoughts going into the game, and what's your prediction?
I've said for a long time that I think at some point we're going to absolutely tear a team apart, because even Plymouth at the weekend, we created 4 or 5 really, really good chances. So we could have easily won by more. I think this is the weekend that I think that Cambridge have still got stuff to play for. I think they will still be trying to achieve things because it's against us more than anything else. But I just don't see how they can come to Portman Road with our record at home under McKenna being so strong and have any chance of getting anything out of the game.
Yeah, no, that's so he's going for a high scoring win.
Yeah, 3 or 4-0. I think I could see us easily getting 3 or 4.
Okay, brilliant. And,
which will be typical because I can't go this weekend.
No, that's certainly what typical. Let's see, a very strong home record though under McKenna so far, especially that big win as well over Plymouth last weekend. Most people viewed that as a season-defining game for Ipswich, so a very good thing they got the win there. I'm going to ask as well, just predict right now, Richard, where you think Ipswich will finish this season. Whereabouts are you saying?
I think they'll finish 6th on the last day of the season. I think that you look at the run-ins that teams have got, I think I could see Plymouth falling out of it. And I think it'll be Ipswich, Sheffield Wednesday, MK Dons and Oxford in the playoffs.
Excellent. And whoever that was to be the playoffs, any team in mind, you think, for the winner?
I think it's difficult to see beyond Sheffield Wednesday at the moment with how they're playing. But a playoff semi-final or final with Morsey coming up against Bannon would be quite interesting to watch, because I don't know that I fancy Bannon to be better than Morsey on the day, but you never know.
Yeah, no, that's certainly, I say Sheffield Wednesday on terrific form, but Ipswich, another team we've got to watch. And of course, even MK Dons and Oxford have had very good seasons as well. So, yeah, that's all we've got time for anyway, Rich, this evening. But thank you very much for joining me on STW Sports, and good luck to Ipswich Town for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much.